let me tell you a story. It's the story of a green young pastor going way out of his depth. That young pastor was fresh out of college and with scarcely any experience when his boss gave him a job to do. Go and visit Martin, he said. He's dying, and he knows it, and he has some questions for a person like you. That young pastor was me, and Martin, as I've said, was the man in question. As it turned out, he wasn't scary at all. He was a charming, witty man whose life was ebbing away far too soon, and he had lots of questions. The most important and nagging of them was this. If I turn to God right now and ask for his forgiveness just because my life is coming towards its end, isn't that cheating? I talked to him all about the dying thief on the cross, who was granted forgiveness by Jesus at the very last minute. But he took some convincing. Whilst we all love to be forgiven, there's something which seems rather cheap about a forgiveness too readily granted. We might be glad if God forgave us for the odd unkind word or thought. But should he really forgive the murderer or the dictator whose crimes are so much worse? Should they get off free? Well, of course they don't. If you watch the film in this series on judgment, you'll find out a bit more about that. Anybody who reaches out and grasps the forgiveness of God accepts a prize won at terrible cost. God does not ignore the crime, but rather chooses to apportion its blame elsewhere than on the shoulders of the one who committed it. Jesus, arms stretched wide along the cross, bears them all. God forgives readily, but not easily, and there's a big difference. Now, of course, there's nothing to stop us from doing wrong again and again and simply continuing on the merry-go-round, holding out our hands for forgiveness every single time. Nothing to stop us at all. Or is there? Listen, I'm a dad, and I count it a privilege to be so to my 3 wonderful sons. When they were growing up, they made just as many mistakes as we all do. I'm sure they did things accidentally as well as others deliberately that they should not have done. But I can truly say I have never found it in myself not to forgive them. I love them, and that's an end to it. That said, a reciprocated love means that you try not to do those things again and again. Even so, it goes with God. He loves to forgive. We love the taste of that forgiveness, but we try not to abuse it as if it were cheap. The Apostle Peter was a man with a whole string of offences to his name, including denying that he'd ever even heard of Jesus. He was the one who talked about salvation and then said that it was so wonderful that even the angels longed to look into these things. It is wonderful, and at times it is quite frankly inconceivable, but it is there. The incomprehensible and inexhaustible forgiveness of God is one of the roots of my faith.